Okay, that's exciting. And the lovely Donna in the house moderating the chat. Don't be a dick or she will ban you, and sleep great tonight. Right, Donna? You gotta press the button.
That's right.
Haha. Yes, thank you, Michael. Thank you for sharing. If anybody else out there in Facebook land is watching, please share this with your community. You never know who might need to hear this message today. Lots of people, apparently. I should probably share it too. Don't be like all talk. Actually do something. If you're just tuning in, please go ahead and share this chat to your community. If you belong to any like-minded groups that might get something out of today's message, please share it with them too. And you can get on our email list. There should, if you're watching on a mobile device, you should see a link somewhere on the screen that you can tap. Enter your information, your email address, simple things. Get on our email list, and we will send you one weekly email with all of our upcoming live streams, maybe some opportunities to check out our merchandise, ways to find our audio podcast platforms, all kinds of things. The topic for today is how the Roe v. Wade decision is going to affect the vulnerable demographic that Dr. Swainey serves. And I guess it would be helpful to know that Dr. Swainey is a doctor in addiction medicine and the director of 2 methadone clinics in the Richmond, Virginia area. So the demographic he serves are the people that would make use of those services. And that's why we're talking about it today. Because we talk about all things substance use. Isn't that right, Donna?
That's right.
Thank you, Tyler. Yes, you definitely should. We don't like to tell people what to do, except when it comes to the email list. You should definitely do that. Oh, and we've got the Hope Shot sharing our stream. Thank you, Hope Shot. Phoenix Fire shared my stream even though we're streaming live to the Phoenix Fire platform.
You know that I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing.
That's correct. And you're in good company because neither do I. Smart Recovery Saskatchewan, thank you for sharing. Company because neither do I. Smart Recovery Saskatchewan, thank you for sharing. Appreciate you very much. Nothing's on fire. We're streaming to all the platforms. I think I can relax now until something starts on fire. You look like you want to push the button, Donna. Yeah. Don't move that.
I was gonna try and move it all like on the down low so you didn't see.
Yeah, I see everything.
You're not holding it right.
I see everything. Nothing gets past me. What's up, Hope Shot? Check them out on Facebook. They go live a couple times a week here too, carrying a message of hope, hearing stories of recovery, things like that. The Hope Shot is dear friends of Hard Knocks Talks. So far. Chart, what's going on? Justin, I see that you learned how to put music over top of your live feed, and I know how to do that. And I was gonna do it first and be like, I can do that, and you can't. And then you did it first, so there you go. You win. You win this round, Justin. You win this round. I still don't have it today though either, so I'm actually slacking now. If you're just tuning in, please share this stream with your community. If you belong to any like-minded groups that would allow it and might benefit from what we're talking about today, go ahead and share it with them too. Help us get the message out there.
LARP says, hello, LARP the poet from Sudbury, Dowling, Ontario.
What's up, Chart? I feel like I'm forgetting something. One of those things I'll remember like 2 seconds before the show actually starts, and then it'll be too late. And then I'll worry about it the entire show.
You're doing great, babe.
Well, thank you. I didn't take my inhaler today. Maybe that's what I forgot.
Are we out of time? Have we crossed the line? So blind.
Yeah, those are amazing, hey? What's that site called again? The Facebook page? Groovy Teas? Oh, I can't remember off the top of my head.
I'm sorry, I can't recall off the top of my head either. I had the card on your desk, but I think Kendra grabbed it.
Damn it, Kendra. Let's see if I can tag it. Yeah, the people that make that bandana and a bunch, like they do tie-dye t-shirts and stuff like that. One of the owners is a follower, and periodically they just send us some cool swag, and we appreciate it very much. It's called Feel the Groove t-shirts. Here, I'll put a tag up. All right, there it is. If you want to get one of them bandanas for your pooch, click that tag and it'll lead you to the source. If my addiction has taught me anything, it is that you want to go to the source.
And I wouldn't be at all surprised if she has one for our feline friends as well.
Mm-hmm. have Phoenix Fire open? Chat? Phoenix Fire chat? What do you mean you have no idea? Who's running this show?
Not me, thank God.
I see you, you see me. We need freedom. Lead the way, 'cause I'm sure they're following. Lead the way, 'cause I'm sure they're following. I thought you said sometimes when I'm sure
Yeah.
they're following.
I also did it wrong. We both did it wrong. Aw. Yeah. We both did it wrong, but we're live, so everyone gets to see us doing it wrong. Match made in heaven. Can you feel the love out there? If you can feel the love, share this stream. That's the deal.
Don't hit me anymore. I don't belong.
If you like this music, why don't you check out Truth and Agony on Spotify and iTunes, local Saskatoon band.
Lead the way, 'cause I'm
Doing
sure
stuff,
they're
sounding amazing.
following. Lead the way, 'cause I'm sure they're following. I thought you said sometimes when I'm sure they're following. Lead the way sometimes. You'll feel more. You'll know more. You'll be more to me. You'll be more. You'll feel more. You'll be more this time.
Donna's taking pictures of Sue with his deadly bandana.
You'll know more. You'll feel more. You'll be more.
All right. Deep breaths. Here we go. What's up, everybody? My name is Daniel Unmanageable, and this is Hard Knox Talks. Today's guest, Dr. Craig Swainey, doctor in addiction medicine and director of 2 methadone clinics in the Richmond, Virginia area, is here to talk about the Roe v. Wade decision, talk about how the Roe v. Wade decision is going to impact the demographic that he serves, and we're going to meet him right after this.
I spent 23 years living in addiction. 16 of those years, I worked as a Red Seal tradesperson in Saskatchewan and Northern Alberta. During that time, I made many mistakes and took more than a few hard knocks. I went from tradesman to business owner to hiding from gang members and dumpster diving. But with that lived experience, I've decided to try and make a change. I've dedicated my life to raising awareness and promoting change in the fields of substance use and psychological health and safety. So join me and my guests as we take off the blinders around mental health in our communities and at work, and shine a light on what's working and what's not working in the fields of mental health and occupational health and safety. I'm Daniel Unmanageable, and I'll be your host, and this is Hard Knox Talks.
All right. Well, before we bring in Dr. Craig, I'd just like to let you know that today's live production is brought to you in part by Prairie Sky Recovery Center and Stronger Together Canada, peer-led support groups by Moms Stop the Harm. To learn more about our sponsors, check out www.hardknockstalks.com. Let's bring in Craig. Hey, Craig.
How's it going, Daniel?
Oh, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm okay. I appreciate you having me here. Glad to talk about this subject. I'm, very interested in this. So thank you.
Yeah, no, and we had you on just a couple of weeks ago, and the topic came up, and right away I was like, well, we gotta talk more about this on the stream. So, is there anything that you'd like to say before we jump in?
I don't think so. I'm going to try to keep this to kind of facts and not get into any type of personal viewpoints I have on this issue. You know, it's a highly charged issue in the United States and throughout the world. So, forgive me if I delve away from facts. I'm going to do the best I can. Okay.
Well, we'll try to steer you. Okay, so let's get started. When we spoke last week, one of the first things you brought up is that this is going to hinder people from getting an education, and I didn't really understand what you meant by that. So, you want to unpack that a bit for us?
Sure. And what I'm going to be, a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about today, a lot of the facts I'm going to talk about, the changes I'm going to be talking about is related to a study that was done in the U.S. called the Turnaway Study, where they looked at women who came into abortion clinics and who were able to get to abortions versus women who came into an abortion clinic and were not able to get an abortion for whatever the reason was that they weren't able to get it. And it was 1,000 women, and they followed them for 5 years, I believe. And they looked at just tons and tons and tons of outcomes of both the women and the children that were born. And one of the things that they found was that women who were able to get an abortion had higher levels, were able to get more education past high school. They were able to make more money than women who weren't able to get an abortion. And so the other side of that is that women who weren't able to get an abortion, who were turned away, had much worse outcomes, not just educationally, but financial implications. They made less money. They were less likely to be saving any money. They were more likely to be dependent on social services. They were much more likely to be unemployed. So a lot of stuff, a lot of impact on people, on children, on society, when you limit the choice of abortion.
So another thing that you mentioned that I definitely wanted to unpack was this is trauma. And there's no doubt about that. Now, what does that mean? This is trauma. Like, is this going to create trauma, or is this a result of trauma, or what did you mean by that?
So, you think about your addiction. Think about the people that you know's addiction. Think about what you know about addiction in general. A lot of times this arises out of a lack of choice, a lack of ability to make a decision, a lack of ability to, choice. So we're telling people who have already, in our world, in my world, which is predominantly low income, people of color, people who are on, social services, who have already been beaten down by the system, who have already been beaten down by the, social environment, the country, who have less education, who have less, financial means, who have less ability to go to get support services. And then you're taking away another option, another realm of their existence. And you're making people have a child. It's not like you're making people wear a mask. You're making people have a child. And, that doesn't go away. And when you look at the outcomes from the studies that I'm talking about, incidents of mental illness go up, incidents of substance use goes up, which I think is a reflective of, stress, of trauma, of people not being able to do what they want or need to get either out of the situation they're in or get help in the situation they're in.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned an increase in social services. How do you think this decision is going to increase the strain on the social services system?
Well, I mean, just by, so let's just look at the educational piece, the financial piece. So you have people who are going to not be able to get advanced degrees. You have people who are making less money per hour, and then you add another dependent onto the plate of that person. So they're not going to be able to do what they need for their child. They're not prepared for another child. So you have, a person who's much more likely to be on social services. You have a person who's not making money who then has a child. In the U.S., children can get social services, but to my knowledge, we aren't doing anything to increase the funding of social services. So, you're going to have increased stress on the Medicaid, the social service platform, with less resources. So overall, not good things are going to be happening. And back to the trauma question, I think it's easy. I think it's easy for, or I hope that it's easy for people to understand how, being forced to carry a pregnancy that you don't want. I hope it's easy to see how that would be traumatic to a person. And there's been tons of research in the past 5-10 years about generational trauma. Is the best way to say it, where you have changes in DNA, but due to stressors that the mother is having, and that's very well documented. That if you have a person who's under stress, your body doesn't know what's they don't know what your body doesn't know what the stress is from. So you have a person who's under stress, your body doesn't know what it's from, extreme stress. And that causes changes in DNA, that causes changes in the environment that the embryo, the fetus, the child is in. And your body's built to survive. Your body's built to adapt. And for your people who are under extreme stress, you're going to have, children are much more likely to have anxiety, depression. Children are much more likely to have substance use disorders. And it's all just due to the stress of the environment that they're in when they're in the womb, as they're developing, and then when they are, in the world, growing up. So multi-level, areas of trauma in this discussion that we have, none of which are good. No trauma is good. And, I would say when you look at data behind trauma and substance use disorders, you get big numbers. So, if you have the majority of people who have substance use disorders with trauma in their background, I think it's easy to make the connection that, okay, well, here we're going to have a child who's been in a very stressful environment, as he's developing. And now where this person's in an environment where they don't have the social services that they need. They don't have, necessarily health care. They don't have the ability to get food. They don't have good housing. We don't have those things set up for what may come. So you're developing the perfect scenario for addiction. And, unfortunately, I think, that's what we'll see. I think in the short term, we'll see mainly things like pregnancy outcomes, death rates for females, mortality for pregnancy to go up. I think you'll see instances of substance use disorders in pregnant women go up. One of the kind of most sobering things that I've run across in this is I have a lot of colleagues in the substance use world, but one is a person who does counseling in not just the substance use world, but also she does crisis management for women who have undergone trauma, and she does crisis stabilization. And I asked her directly, how do you see this, shift in Roe versus Wade affecting the people that you take care of? What do you think will happen? What do you think you're going to see? And right away, the first thing she said was, I'm going to have a lot more women kill themselves. I'm going to see more suicide than I have, because a lot of people, that choice of, when you have a physical assault or rape, incest, their sense of control may only be, what to do with that pregnancy. So in the short term, I think you're going to see some mortality issues, pregnancy outcome issues. Longer term, I think you're looking at, what I do. I think that you're going to see a lot more substance use disorders. I think you're going to see an increase in mental health disorders. There's a lot that goes along with it that will take time to see. And, very similar, I think, to the war on drugs. And what I mean by that is in the 70s, the Nixon administration decided to go after drugs. And actually, this is documented. There was a straight tactic that the Nixon administration had to get rid of people who weren't for the Vietnam War. And the best thing that they could come up with was a war on drugs, because they knew that people in the African American community who were standing up and saying, no, we don't want this war, had use of drugs, had a higher use of drugs. And with the counterculture in the 60s, with the, for lack of a better word, hippies, used more drugs, marijuana specifically.
My mom was a hippie.
And so, what's that?
I said my mom was a hippie.
Yeah, I love hippies. I'm a hippie at heart for sure. And so what did you see immediately? You saw mass incarceration. You saw huge changes in the prison system. Money that was spent on prisons and enforcements, and blah blah blah. What did you see long term though? Long term, you saw a real degradation of populations of people. because you had the adults who were, kind of role models and people who led the younger generation were gone, were locked up. They were out of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think in the 80s and 90s, you saw an increase in violence, an increase in gangs, an increase in crime, an increase in drug use. And I think that can be tied directly into the pretty much assault on those demographics. And, I see a similar thing happening with the changes in Roe versus Wade. Everyone knows, it's well documented that this is going to disproportionately affect people of color, people who have low socioeconomic status. The people who have money, it's not going to, be a big issue. It's going to be a big inconvenience, but it won't be a big issue. You'll have people who will, who have a car, who have money for gas, who have the ability to take off work and keep their jobs, who can go to a different state and get, an abortion performed and come back and be okay.
Well, even that that is being attacked. That going to a different state, like, and I don't know the exact details of it, but I do remember hearing something on the news that if you're caught doing that, there will be some pretty stiff implications.
So that's one. Final verdict on that isn't out yet, and it probably won't be out for a while. You have people who are big into the pro-life movement who are pushing to do exactly what you say and kind of close the borders on states who will continue to allow abortions. And there are states who will allow abortions who are, doing everything they can to ensure that won't be blocked, that women will be able to come to their state. So, I don't know what the outcome of that will be, honestly, Daniel. I think there's a lot of smart people who are in the medical world, a lot of smart people who are in the, addiction world, women's health world, women's rights world, who are really putting their heads together to try to come up with something that can help people who don't have options.
So earlier this week, Donna had an FASD expert by the name of Robbie Seal on her show, and they did an interview together, and some questions came up for Donna that she would like to chime in on. So we're just gonna bring her in and let her say a few words.
So yeah.
Hey, Donna.
Hi. Sorry, I just come blasting in. That's our way around here, just like wrecking balls. So as Dan indicated, I talked to an FASD expert on Tuesday of this week, and in talking about substance use, oftentimes women who are in active addiction or even simply just binge using, as we call it, or recreational use kind of a thing, whether it be alcohol or narcotics, we often don't know until we're like 3 months pregnant. And then, of course, and for some, it comes even later, and others simply cannot stop using throughout the pregnancy. But the point being is I'm concerned that with this overturning of Roe v. Wade, if somebody is unable to get an abortion in early enough time, that we're going to see a dramatic increase in prenatal exposure, and therefore, there's that increase for the outcomes associated and the challenges associated with FASD, not only on the individual but the family as well as societally. Are my concerns warranted here?
Yeah, I believe so. I really believe so, and I can give you some examples. Let me start out by saying this. Again, in that study, what they showed was children that were born to women who were unable to have abortions had more developmental delays, had more issues with mental illness, than children who were born to women who were able to get an abortion. So, I think number one, there's a sign that something's not right, right there. I think you're absolutely right in that we're going to have people who aren't going to know. And number two, I don't even want to, let me just give you an example. I do 2 methadone clinics, and, we have people who are pregnant that we take care of. And it's amazing to me how some women can go from, using every day multiple substances to only taking methadone, straight and narrow, no drugs. Throughout the pregnancy, they're, delivered, and, at some point down the road, some people relapse, but, women can stay clean when they have the knowledge and the resources. But on the other hand, I've seen, cases where, a woman comes in who is in a relationship with, and people may not believe this happens, but this happens in relationships with people, with men who are, for lack of better words, trying to trap the person in the relationship by getting them pregnant. And, it's really hard for the people I've taken care of in those situations to stay clean. It's a different scenario. It's a totally different scenario, it seems like, when women are pregnant by choice versus by, another means, especially. And I think that gets to the control issue. I think that gets to the trauma issue. I think that, when people don't have choice, no matter how you feel about the abortion debate, just in general, when people don't have choice, bad things happen. They don't. And look at our community, look at our people, we get to the place where we are because of all the stress we have, because of the, life circumstances that we're in, and because we don't have good coping skills, because the only coping skill we know of is to use. And it works. It shuts that brain down. It's not a fix, and it's not a good coping skill long term, that's for sure. And it gets us into big trouble. But it's what we know. It's the only thing we know of to get us into a livable situation. So, you have people who are already, in bad situations. Now you take away, the control of a pregnancy, and you have another life to take care of, not just for 9 months, but for the rest of their lives. Mm-hmm. And I think the stress on that's going to be tremendous. The trauma from that's tremendous. And, outcomes are going to be, tremendous. Increases in substance use disorders, increases in mental health issues. It's going to be there. And unfortunately, that's going to keep my job very safe for a very long time.
Do you know, and you may not know the answer to this, so just be free to say, I have no idea. Are there going to be more services offered prenatally now that this decision has come into play? All of the pro-lifers, they seem to be so, children's rights and everything. So having said that, what protections will be put in place to protect these unborn children that would have otherwise maybe not happened? I know. We didn't talk about the question. It just popped into my head.
No. Look, so I'm trying to figure out a way to answer this without getting too spirited. That is the problem, Daniel. That's the biggest problem, is that you're telling people that we're making you carry this baby, but we're not going to give you more resources. We're not going to increase the amount that we spend for social services. We're not going to give you extra money because you have a baby. We're not going to ensure that you have enough food to eat. We're not going to ensure that you have safe housing. So it's very confusing. And I think, you know, this is one of the major reasons that you're seeing big pushback, finally, that, you know, we're going down one direction, but we're not offering alternatives to help or resources to help. So how do people do it? You know, how are they going to manage? And like you and I know, they're going to manage the best they can. They're going to do what they can to stay alive, to try to meet the needs of their children, of themselves. And, you know, a lot of times that's not possible. And a lot of times, you know, like we know, the only answer is to use. And, you know, that's just the reality of it. And yeah, you're right. That's more pro-birth than pro-life. Pro-life is, you know, resources. Pro-life is, you know, getting into the underserved communities, the communities of people of color, of offering, you know, more. And that's not happening. You know, it's when you advocate for a embryo, it's kind of an easy stance, because that embryo doesn't have a face. It doesn't have a history. It doesn't have mental
Social
illness.
insurance number.
It doesn't have any issues. You know, it can be whatever you imagine in your brain. But advocating for people who are in the pits, who are in underserved areas, who have huge needs, you know, that's pro-life. But you don't see that. I mean, think about the addiction. Think about our in the U.S. over 100,000 people died of overdose last year. Where's pro-lifers in this area? You know, so it's very counterintuitive, and you know, it's right at the top of my list of frustrations with things that are going on with policy changes and in the government right now. These are absolutely not medically based. Absolutely not. So very frustrating.
Donna just had something she wanted to add in here.
Well, I've just, you know, like you were talking about how people are going to cope, and that's going to result in, you know, substance use or criminality or whatever the case may be. I'm also concerned about the fact of increased apprehensions, children ending up in foster care. And I mean, you know, unfortunately, I think most people are aware that when you go through that system, that also increases the likelihood of substance use disorders, criminality, mental health issues. So it just, you know, I'm really missing the whole point in this. Like, it just seems to be the perfect storm to create compounding problems. And there just doesn't seem, how could, you know, 5-10 years down the road, at the rate we're already going outside of this Roe v. Wade overturning, where were they ever going to get in front of it? And now we're throwing this in the mix, and it just, I'm just so mind blown. Like, how did this ever make sense? And then you have Coney Barrett making stupid comments like, oh, just, you know, drop the kid off at an adoption agency or at the fire hall. There's all these wonderful Christian families that would adopt. But like, how, I'm sorry, that's my own personal opinion and my own personal rant, and I don't know how many people share that opinion, but that just seems to be so incredibly out of touch. Like Nero watching the city burn and in awe of how beautiful the fire is. Like, come on, people.
Yeah, great. Those are great point. Those are great points. We have a foster care system in the U.S. that's strained beyond belief. And now we're going to increase that need exponentially. And what are the outcomes going to be? You know, just like you just very aptly, you know, said, criminality, substance use disorders, mental illness. You know, those are going to be the hallmarks of what's coming. And yeah, it's we're going to see it. We're going to see it in the numbers. And, you know, someone said this to me a while ago and years ago, and I really don't like this statement, but people are going to die, you know, and sometimes, you know, it seems like the only way to make for society to see a change is for people to die. And, you know, unfortunately, it feels like that's where we are in the US right now.
Yeah. How long do you think it'll take before we see the full effects of this decision? And what do you think those effects will look like?
Years, maybe 5-10 years before we really start seeing big problems again. You know, when you think back to the war on drugs, you're talking about something in the 70s that really started showing big issues in the late 80s and 90s. So I think we're going to be talking about similar time frames, 5-10 years. More, there's going to be a bigger gap in the haves and haves not. There's going to be a huge, well, I shouldn't say huge. There's going to be a big increase in the people who are well below the poverty line. You're going to see increase in mental illness. You're going to see an increase in violence of women too, which you don't hear people talk about. But when you look at, like I said, this study, when you look at what happens in other countries, the Philippines, Poland, you see an increase in violence on women. And whether that's because
why do you, yeah.
You know, I haven't heard good reasoning. I think it probably is related to, you know, again, the person who's trying to keep the wife or the girlfriend to get them pregnant so that they'll stay with them, who's already abusive, right? And is trying to keep that person with them. I think some of it is people are going to get pregnant and their men partners are not going to want to have anything to do with a kid. So, you know, some of them will leave, others will be violent and, you know, try to end the pregnancy. I haven't heard good explanations for it. Those are just, you know, thoughts that I have.
I'd just quickly like to chime in because I think it's important that we, you know, like how you commented that there might be men who use a pregnancy to keep a woman in the relationship. In an effort to basically play sort of a devil's advocate here, there are women who do that same thing. And so perhaps that might be why, you know, there's an increase in violence against women as well. Because whenever you're trapping somebody in a relationship through a pregnancy, I mean, there's bound to be an increase in violence, whether it be emotional or physical or what have you. But I mean, it's entirely possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. And that is an excellent point. And again, you know, this is a perfect milieu for your show, for mental health issues, for substance use, crime, every bad outcome you can think of. This is a perfect storm for it. We're making dramatic changes without, you know, making reciprocal dramatic changes. You know, so you have people who are stuck with no resources, and you know, where do people go when they're stuck and they have no resources? They do the best they can. Sometimes that means, you know, they may end their life. Sometimes it means they may, you know, rob a place so that they can feed themselves or pay rent or whatever. Sometimes it means, you know, they use. Yeah. The other thing is child abuse. You see an increase in child abuse when abortion is banned, or people, you know, aren't able to get abortions. So, you know, I mean, honestly, this is the truth. Every negative outcome you can think of is going to increase. There are no positive outcomes to ending abortion when you look at consequences to females, to women, and consequences to children. There are no good outcomes. There are no good markers for okay, this is improving for these people. This is improving, these children who are being born are being, just really doing well and, getting good degrees, stable, overall, contributing to society. You don't see that. You don't see good outcomes for women. It's not good. There aren't good outcomes for women or children when this is taken away.
Well, that's all I've got for you today, my friend. I think we covered everything that we wanted to. Dawn, any last thoughts?
No, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I've just I just want to say that I'm highly against the overturning of that decision, and I'm concerned, what ramifications that's going to have up here in Canada. I understand that there are, the pro-life movement has been very active in Canada, and I fear that we're facing the same sort of outcomes if a particular leadership gets in, and that's terrifying.
Yeah. Okay.
Daniel, let me say one other thing.
Yep.
And then I'll get off of my stool here. I think to make big changes, two things. One is, I think the quickest way to make changes is for white men specifically to stand up and say, look, this isn't okay. This is not okay. And I say specifically white men because it seems like that's where the change happens the fastest. And I don't know if that's a, relationship between power or, money or what, but it's clear. And the second thing,
it might not be right.
I think,
it might not be right, but
correct. Mm-hmm. The second way, and I think this is the way we're going to see change, is we're going to see, I think this is more likely. What's more likely is that you're going to see masses of, females, of women, of people of color who, stand up and say, look, we can't do this. And we'll see changes in voting. We'll hopefully see a higher percentage turnout for, people of color, for women, and ultimately that will change. That'll change the powers that be, and hopefully change the system that we're in.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Craig. And
glad
we'll
to
talk
be here.
again.
Thank you.
Yeah. Take care.
Yes,
my
sir.
friend.
Will do. You too.
There's power in numbers. If you would like to contribute to ending the stigma around emotional pain, please subscribe to our Facebook page and follow us on Instagram. Like and comment your thoughts on our posts. Find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Let us come together with our lived and living experience as a resource that has the power to engage new thought processes, to promote new ideas, to broaden the spectrum of care, and to show the world that the lie is dead. We can recover. There is a safer way. And we're here to show you how. Take care, everyone.